Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast, recording and live on D-Day, June 6th. For those that don't know their history, this is Kevin Klein speaking. I am in Amsterdam, so once again, I apologize. I don't have my sound equipment with me if it's a little rough, but your Los Angeles Dodgers are 38-25, 7 games up in the division for first place. But Jake Reiner, this doesn't really feel like a 38-25 team to me.
No, they don't. And it's weird because the record reflects something different. But if you've been watching the games, and as Dodgers fans, we've been following this team for quite some time. And I'm talking about this sort of era that we're in, the last 3 or 4 years of this era that we're in. And it looks eerily similar to the other seasons that we've seen where the Dodgers have won 100 games and got bounced in the first round. I mean, it's a spitting image of how it felt last year and the year before that, where they're kind of coasting through the regular season and they're going to win the division. In fact, I saw a tweet from our friend Blake Harris saying that the Dodgers in the last 24 games are 12-12, and they've gained ground in the division. So there's not a lot of pressure for them to win right now, as opposed to the Yankees, which we'll get into. But the Orioles are right on their heels, as good as the Yankees have been. So there's a lot of motivation for them to stay on top of the division. Meanwhile, the Dodgers are kind of just the only good team in the NL West. But it still very much concerns me because I don't think they're not going to win this division. They're going to win this division. What worries me is this offense looking as bad as it's looked over this stretch of mediocrity is going to show up in the postseason. Because my biggest thing that I've been banging my fists on the table is this team cannot manufacture runs. They can't hit with runners in scoring position. They can't score without hitting a home run. That's a big issue. And that's something I hope we can get into today because it is just so frustrating to watch them at the plate.
Yeah. And you hit on a point. It's like the division sucks every year and we win the division, but then they get pounced and bounced in the first round by NL West teams. At this point, with there only being 4 teams in the National League out of 15 with records above 500, Rob Manfred and the owners have basically discounted the regular season now. It's you get in, you get lucky. It's until proven otherwise, it seems to just be a crapshoot, and I'm getting kind of fed up with it. If the Dodgers have a number of issues they've got to address, and we're gonna hit on all of them right now. And the first one I want to start with is the hitting coach, Robert Van Scoyoc. What does this guy even bring to the table anymore? I mean, it seemed like at first things were going well. They obviously won the World Series in 2020 with him in the coaching staff. But give me a list of players that have come to the Dodgers and their careers have actually improved under Van Scoyoc. I think Jason Hayward is the one name that comes to mind. But for the most part, almost everyone else, when they come up from AAA, they aren't their AAA of selves, like the Luxes, the Vargases, the Bushes of the world. Outman, they all strike out. They don't live up to the hype. Or they're the veterans that come through and they regress.
Yeah, the other name while you were talking that I was thinking of was JD Martinez, who had a pretty big resurgence last year. But generally speaking, I agree with you. I don't know what this guy brings to the table. I watch other teams and how they operate offensively. They're bunting guys over. They're stealing bases. They're doing hit and runs. They're squeezing guys in. They're wreaking havoc on the bases. Now, we don't necessarily have the speed of a Cincinnati Reds team or the scrappiness of a Pittsburgh Pirates team. I mean, those teams are bad teams, so they've got to figure out any which way to score. Whereas the Dodgers, they kind of are resting on their laurels a little bit in the sense that we'll just outslug you.
Yeah.
We've got Shohei Ohtani. We've got Teoscar Hernandez. We did have Max Muncy for a minute. We have Freddie Freeman. We have Mookie Betts. Will Smith. These guys are all power hitters. They're all RBI machines. But the problem is that when you got guys coming out of the bullpen or guys on the mound starting games for opposing teams that are throwing 100 miles an hour, you got to make contact. And it just feels like the fastballs down the middle they're missing. They put runners on, they leave them out there. They don't cash them in when they need to. And the funny thing is that when they do scratch runs across, they generally win. Just like when they hit home runs, they generally win. I mean, I saw obviously the records have changed since the last time I saw this stat, but again, Blake Harris giving him a lot of shout outs, but he does good work. Basically, he came out with some records, some stats that basically we are a very mediocre team when we don't homer and an elite team when we do. I mean, it's that simple. They've got to figure out a way to manufacture runs. I don't see that happening, though. I don't see that shift or the change in this team that can get them to a point where they're doing that. Or maybe they got to go out on the open market and find guys that can make contact. Find guys that can push the ball to the right side and move a runner over with less than 2 outs. But they've got guys like Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes and Gavin Lux and Jason Hayward who just can't hit right now. Those guys you need to be utilizing in those roles. You need to be bunting with those guys. We saw Chris Taylor squeeze a run in a few games ago, and I'm like, where's that? That needs to be a staple of this team. Kike Hernandez, we need those guys at the bottom of the order to move these runners over, to put them in a position to where the top of the order can drive them in.
Shout out to Jay, because this is actually the subject I was going to get on the train with. So the stat isn't quite what he's saying, but against pitchers that throw 97 miles per hour and up, we suck ass. We are basically dead last in the league in slugging, 148 slugging, which is insanely terrible. Against those 97 and up pitchers like we saw in this Pirates series, Jared Jones, Paul Skenes, those type of pitchers. We're hitting 124 as a team against the fastball. Like, put that in perspective, a 124 batting average against these types of fastballs, which is likely what you're going to see a lot of in the postseason. And you got guys like Ohtani, who actually connected for the only home run this entire season on a pitch above 97 miles per hour, which happened to be in that game against Paul Skenes. Other than that, they have 2 doubles, nothing else for extra base hits. That's how bad they are.
Right. I mean, when you're trying to swing for the fences, when you're trying to lift and separate and create that launch angle, you're going to be swinging at a lot of fastballs because that's what you're looking for. But when that's your approach at the plate, you're going to miss a lot of those balls, especially, 100 miles an hour with movement. I mean, Aroldis Chapman's thrown 104 against us.
Oh yeah, that was insane.
It, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're hunting, they talk about hunting the fastball. These guys are hunting fastballs. That's what they want to hit, but they can't hit them because their approach is so bad.
That's another thing, is that you mentioned Chapman. He was in an uptick of like 4 miles per hour, more than his usual, hitting like close to 104 when he's been 99, 100. And then Jared Jones, who I think was around 97, he was hitting 100. So these guys are getting up for when they face the Dodgers, and they clearly know we struggle against these pitches. And then just 4-seamers in general, we're like 20th in Major League Baseball in terms of success rate. And then there was that one stat that's probably changed, but it was like 4-seamers down the middle. We're also in the lesser tier. So you can just throw a hard fastball down the middle to these Dodgers hitters, and it's not resulting in success. So this is a first for me, because normally the whole narrative was the Dodgers can't hit left-handed pitching. But all of a sudden, we look like a bunch of old farts up there. I mean, you look at Mookie Betts, the bat speed is slow. Freddie Freeman seems to have lost a lot of his power for now. Hopefully he can find something. Will Smith overall has been good. So he's actually one of our best players consistently. But then everyone else after that is either really inconsistent or they're freaking terrible.
And the thing about Freddie, because I have noticed the dip in power, but one thing that I do really enjoy about watching him in the batter's box is he has the correct approach. He's trying to find a way to get on base, to get hits, and he uses every part of the field. And he has such a short, compact swing. That is a recipe for success. That's how he's been so good for so long. That's why when he's hitting 286, you can say things like, oh, Freddie's not hitting well. It's like, well, I mean, if you told Chris Taylor, hey, bud, you could hit 286 right now, you have the power to do that. You think Chris Taylor would turn that down? I mean, that's a good batting average for him. But for Freddie, because the bar is so high, because he's a 300 hitter for a reason, because he's not swinging out of his shoes on every pitch, he's able to make contact. And that is just the big problem with this team. And one thing I want to point out about Shohei Ohtani, because, and again, I have absolutely no credibility to criticize Shohei Ohtani because he is a two-time MVP. He's arguably the best player in baseball. You could make an argument definitely for him being the best player in baseball and all of that. And we love him, and we love him on the Dodgers and all of that. With all of that said, it does boggle my mind when he misses a pitch, when he swings and misses at a fastball and his helmet pops off and he pulls his head out and he swivels around. I'm thinking, how the hell is this guy this good when he misses that badly? I don't know. That wasn't really a larger point of something that we need to be concerned with, but I just find it funny. I don't know if you picked up on that, but I'm watching these games and I'm like, damn, like, how does this guy ever make contact?
There are moments like that where he does swing out of his shoes and makes no contact with the ball, but I didn't watch him enough with the Angels to know if that's just part of his game. Other power hitters like the Alfonso Sorianos of the world looked like that too, but then they can hit 40 home runs. So might just come with the territory.
Yeah.
But on that subject, the one thing that I am disappointed with Ohtani, and this will tie into another issue with the Dodgers, is we continue to suck with runners in scoring position. We were 0 for 12 in the Jones game, and then we were 3 for 9 against the Skenes game. Ohtani, 246 batting average with runners in scoring position. And then when I was doing my homework, I was shocked to see Teoscar Hernandez is hitting 200 with runners in scoring position. And Muncy, who's been out and should be out for the foreseeable future, because as usual, the Dodgers undersell us and don't promise the timelines. He's probably out till the All-Star break. Muncy was hitting 208. Those are some of the key players who struggle. Meanwhile, Mookie is still up there, 356, and Smith 339 with runners in scoring position. They've been the two best.
I mean, the simple fact is that Mookie Betts and Will Smith make contact more than Teoscar Hernandez and Max Muncy. I mean, Max Muncy and Teoscar Hernandez are huge strikeout guys. So when you put them in those leverage spots with runners on base, that's going to happen because the pitchers know that they can get a strikeout if they need to. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's what they're pitching to them to do. And they have such, big swings, especially Teoscar Hernandez, that makes sense to me. But the point is that they don't have enough guys in the lineup to complement that, to be guys that can put the ball in play. Sometimes that's all it takes. Just a fly ball, just make contact. Yeah. I mean, Mookie Betts, he's a master at pop-ups. He loves to pop the ball up. So it doesn't surprise me that he actually is hitting well with runners in scoring position because you make contact, you put the ball in play, you got a better chance of scoring a run than when you strike out.
There's been so many incidents this year where we've had a runner on second and then they don't score. And maybe I'm naive, but I feel like of all the Dodgers teams I've watched since Friedman took over, feels like we've had more opportunities than ever with runners in scoring position, and we're sucking harder and harder in this lifetime with runners in scoring position. It feels like we're just bad.
Yeah. Well, they can't make contact. They just can't put the ball in play. It's just so frustrating. And I put out a tweet the other day that actually actually did pretty well, because I feel like a lot of people have this sentiment, which is if the Dodgers hit like this in the postseason, I don't know if my heart can take it. Like and a lot of people are like, oh, must be your first time here. No, just the opposite. I've seen this story happen over and over and over again, where we like to talk about starting pitching being a huge problem, for the Dodgers the last few years in the postseason, being healthy and having to rely on guys like Lance Lynn. But people forget the Dodgers scored 2 runs a game against the Diamondbacks. They scored a total of 6 runs in that series. That's not going to win, even if you have, Sandy Koufax going for you every single game. That's just not going to get it done.
Yeah, last year we had no pitching and all the offense besides the playoffs. This year we have all the pitching and really no offense. Justin Yamas pointing out we were 4th in OPS with an OPS over 800 with runners in scoring position, and now we're barely above 700 this year. So that's not going to get the job done. So I'm going to call my shot right now. We'll get more into the Yankee series, but I'll probably be wrong. If we suck and we get swept and the offense doesn't show up against the Yankees, Van Scoyoc gets fired. Calling my shot right now.
You think this early in the season?
It's at this point, we're really not that early anymore. We're almost to the halfway point, actually. We got the All-Star voting out there now. There's a pretty large sample size. I mean, we're almost 60-ish games. We're over 60 games in. By the time that Yankee series is ending, it'll be close to 70. They know at that point what they have. And
look, I'm with you. I agree. I feel like Van Scoyoc should have been fired yesterday. I feel like the last 2 seasons in the postseason, he should have been fired. I mean, that was what I got so angry about when the Dodgers had their exit interview press conference at the end of the NLDS when they got swept. I was so upset because basically they were saying, yep, we're going to run it back. We're not going to make any changes. The roster is going to look different, obviously, because we're going to go out and get Ohtani, but we're not making any changes. Excuse me? You enjoyed that? You enjoyed the coaching staff? I mean, we were talking about potentially having Dave Roberts get canned, which, you can make an argument for and against that. I get all that. But if you're going to keep Dave, then someone else has to get the axe here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the guy who is in charge of these hitters being so bad. I mean, I know a lot of the, majority, I don't know about the majority, but a lot of the responsibility does fall on the hitters themselves and not being able to execute. But a lot of it falls on the game plan too. And you can't get rid of the whole roster. So the next best thing is to get rid of the hitting coach. Now, my question, Kevin, and this might be a good topic of discussion, is who do you get to replace him? Do you, promote someone from within, or do you go out and get like a Chase Utley, for example? What would you do?
That's the tough part of firing this guy. Who's the hitting coach for the AAA team? Because they seem to be doing a good job down there. If that guy's been there if that guy's established and it's not like his first or second year, bring that guy up, because they seem to be slugging the last couple seasons down there in Oklahoma City. Give that guy a shot. He seems to know what he's doing. And while Jake's looking that up, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this with your friends and families. Get the chat rolling. We do have more to cover. MWG along with Bat Dodger 03 on X. When do they stop playing Gavin Lux and Chris Taylor? Why don't they bring up the kids in Oklahoma City who are raking to replace Taylor, Kike, and even Lux? So I have some thoughts on that, but seeing if Jake has the answer before I go.
Oh, yeah. So this is actually kind of funny. I did not know that he was our hitting coach. It is former major leaguer journeyman Emmanuel Burris is the hitting coach of the AAA team. He had a lifetime 237 batting average and a negative 2.7 WAR. But obviously knows how to get these guys, able to hit. I mean, Outman Outman's crushing the ball in AAA.
Yeah.
Vargas crushing the ball when he was down there. Now he can't hit up here. So yeah, Manny Burris or Emmanuel Burris is the hitting coach of Oklahoma City.
Emmanuel Burris.
Welcome to the Dodgers.
Yes.
Welcome to the big club, buddy. You're getting promoted.
We have found our guy. Thank you, Jake. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the main culprits here? Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, and Gavin Lux. Start with one. Let's tear them apart.
Go ahead.
Okay. We'll start with the appetizer. Kike Hernandez has not been good for the Dodgers this season overall. He's hitting 198, 57 WRC plus.
Really, he's under 200. I didn't know that.
They're not even really playing him at this point. They were giving him a lot of leeway with the Muncy injury and giving him reps at third, but he's been pretty bad, especially against right-handed pitching. I'm pretty sure his batting average is it's probably 150 or worse. He's not doing anything for the Dodgers. He's very fortunate right now that Miguel Vargas, Chris Taylor, and even Lux are on this roster because one of those three probably would get moved down or cut first.
Yeah,
but
who wants it at this point? Because there's a bunch of open jobs right now and nobody wants it.
I will say this. If Kike Hernandez continues at the pace he's going, he's going to get DFA'd.
I don't want that to happen because of what I know he's capable of doing in October. And guess what? He was one of the only players that hit in the playoffs last year. I'm guessing it's the reason they brought him back. He's versatile. He can play anywhere. If we're relying on Kike Hernandez to be like a productive starting player, then something is horribly wrong. He's not that. He's never been that. He's never been a starting caliber player. He tried that in Boston. It didn't exactly go well. But in the role that he plays for the Dodgers, a part-time player that can play anywhere, that has that postseason clutch factor in him, I don't think he's getting DFA'd. If he is, that's disappointing, and I would be mad about that despite the lack of production. But I feel like there should be other players that are more on the chopping block than him.
Right. And that's why I started off by saying those other guys. But as we get closer to the trade deadline, I don't know how crazy they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to pull off a number of trades or just get the one big fish. So yeah, we'll cover that probably in a few minutes, but I'm just trying to find his platoon splits. So against right-handed pitching, yeah, he's hitting 157. So that he's basically unplayable against any right-handed starter.
What's he hitting against lefties? Do you have that?
250.
Okay.
Serviceable. So platoon bat for sure, but definitely at the trajectory he's going, they might need to upgrade. But that's why I said he's lucky that Chris Taylor is on the roster because I can't think of a worse player right now or a worse season. Like we have to go years back. He's hitting 098. He's got a 2 WRC plus, literally a 2. Not even Austin Barnes at his peak shit was this bad. And they're paying Chris Taylor $15-16 million a year, and he's basically got a -1 WAR. This guy, this is my conspiracy. They started him the last 2 games against Skenes and Jones more as a test. Like, can this guy give us anything? Because he's going to either get traded inevitably or DFA'd. More likely DFA'd at this point.
I'm wondering if they can. Well, it's such a tough contract to trade because how many years left does he have?
One more after this. So
right.
You'd eat the money and hope you can get literally just like a better bat or a bullpen arm, I guess.
I know, but it's so tough to trade because you're trading a really like lucrative contract for a guy that can't hit. He's hitting under 100. Damn.
We'd have to pay him to play elsewhere and probably attach some type of prospect.
No, it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. He regressed quicker than I thought he would, because if you remember before when he was when he was traded to the Dodgers from the Mariners, I remember thinking, well, first of all, I've never heard of him. But second of all, I don't really know what they see in him because his numbers weren't great. And then they unlocked something within him and he became like an everyday juggernaut of a player in the 2017 postseason, 2018 postseason, 2021. I mean, 2020. I mean, the list goes on of how impactful he was for that run. But then once after, the 2021 season, they signed him to a big deal. And I remember liking that contract because I'm like, well, clearly they've unlocked something within him and clearly he's figured it out. And then it just went downhill fast. I mean, 2022, he was bad. 2023, he was even worse. And then this year, he's even worse than that. So it's just frustrating because he is a fan favorite. I liked him. I've liked him as a player. So it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow for a guy that's been on the roster for as long as he has and has created a cult following, if you will. But he is the definition of unplayable. It is just an automatic out, and he can't make contact. And I don't know. I again, one of those candidates like Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor, where it's like, just have him bunt. Figure out how to bunt for a base hit. Just get something going. Make contact at least. Yeah.
You got the one RBI or whatever. Yeah, these guys are so bad. We don't even talk about Austin Barnes anymore as a guy we have to get rid of. And yeah,
he's fine right now. He's a fine backup catcher. He's nothing special, but that's just who he is.
I'm in Amsterdam. I'm as sober as you can be right now. I'm not high when I say this. Chris Taylor's season cannot be salvaged. Like, he is cooked. He is more cooked than a Thanksgiving turkey. The Dodgers just need to rip off the Band-Aid and get rid of him. There are guys in Oklahoma City who couldn't possibly be worse than what Chris Taylor is right now. Andre Lipschitz, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but I have been tracking him. He is one guy that's just tearing the cover off the ball for Oklahoma City. He's got 15 home
bring
runs.
Back Outman.
That's another guy, but Lipschitz plays the infield, which the Dodgers currently need because they don't have a third baseman. So you throw him at third, give an opportunity, DFA Chris Taylor, I guess, to add him to the 40-man. I mean, 15 home runs. I'm willing to give him a roll of the dice. He's like 26. So there's no point keeping him down in Oklahoma City. This guy's got legit pop. Or if you want to get crazy here and the Dodgers feel like they need to give someone a swing at shortstop, more on that position in a second, call up Trey Sweeney. Why the hell not? He's been hot. He was the PCL player of the week last week. He had like 6 or 7 home runs, a 3 home run game. He's on fire too.
I mean, like you said, they couldn't be worse. They couldn't be. I mean, the bar is, can you get above a 100 batting average? That's the bar right now. So they really couldn't be worse.
Even Miguel Vargas, find a way to play him more. I don't understand why they can't give him some reps at third baseman.
I mean, shit. What's he doing on the bench? I mean,
yeah.
This is his second crack at it. I mean, real crack at it. Because last year he started on the roster. He couldn't hit because he was injured or whatever. He couldn't figure it out. Then they sent him down, and then we never saw him again. So this is his second crack at it. I don't understand why they're not giving him more run. Put him. I mean, I know that he's been working in the outfield and whatever, but I mean, come on. At this point, do something.
British friend, the Lytham Dodger over on X, wants us to discuss the possibility of, can Mookie Betts go to right field, Miguel Vargas to second base, and then the Dodgers obtain a shortstop? What would you guys do differently? And then he wants us to discuss the possibility of trading for Luis Robert.
I mean, one of the obvious things you could do is, package Gavin Lux in some kind of deal for a Luis Robert, or, a Bo Bichette or something like that. then you could move Mookie to second at least. I personally, I would prefer him in right field, but I feel like second base is just less taxing on him than at shortstop. I don't know if the fact that he's working so hard practicing at shortstop that it's affecting his offense, but certainly it feels like there is some correlation there. So you move him to second base, and then look, man, Miguel Rojas is having a fine season. It's not a bad option to have him as your shortstop. It really isn't. He's a really good defender, and it's a good stopgap for if, towards the end of the year, like you mentioned, you could bring up Trey Sweeney, or next year, Trey Sweeney could be your starting shortstop. Then you don't have to go and trade for one necessarily, because if Miguel Rojas can be a serviceable bat and not an automatic out, then that's a great in-house option to have.
I think there is a definite correlation, and I don't know why Mookie Betts won't play right field ever again. It's kind of weird to me because he was one of the best in the game, and we just have to accept that he's going to be an infielder, but he can't be a shortstop. I said this before the season even began. It's just not sustainable, and this is absolutely taking a toll on him. Even if he goes out and hits 3 home runs later tonight, I'm still not buying it. It's just loony to think otherwise. It's the toughest position in baseball for a reason. There's a reason it's the premier position, and these guys get $300 million plus to play the position. If you look at his stats in a vacuum, you're pretty happy with him hitting 309 with 9 home runs, WRC plus in the 160s. But then you look at where he's been recently. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting 103. Over his last 30 games, he's hitting 248 with a 326 on base, a 372 slug, just 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. So the decline is definitely there. And it looks like against a lot of these good pitchers, he's late as well with his swing. And the Baseball Savant page backs that up. He's swinging and missing, late to the slow bat speed. And he just doesn't look like the same hitter that he was coming out of the gates early on in the year, or the Mookie Betts we saw most of 2023. So in my mind, I don't know if this is offensive and could get me canceled, but Gavin Lux is a literal terrorist for what he's done to Mookie Betts. They gave him the shortstop position. They let literally every shortstop the last 2 years go to different teams because they wanted to believe in this guy. We could have had like a Dansby Swanson, or re-sign Corey Seager, or trade for an Adames a year.
Or keep Trey.
Even try to convince Trey Turner to re-sign. Instead, we banked on Gavin Lux, who's at this point, I'm convinced, the biggest bust in Los Angeles Dodgers history. And now he plays second base, and he's fine there defensively. But offensively, Gavin Lux adds no value. He's a 200 hitter, no pop. Like, what are we doing? This guy is Adam Morrison territory. He is the Adam Morrison of MLB.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad comp, Adam Morrison, because he tore it up at Gonzaga, and then he just couldn't do it. Or like Jimmer Fredette, like
oh yeah, Jimmer,
like one of those flash in the pan kind of guys that had a lot of promise. It sucks because he's bad, and I don't know whether the coming back from the knee injury is affecting anything in his swing, or maybe just his confidence in his, his lower half and being able to generate power, or you notice that the speed is not there anymore, because that was a huge dynamic factor of his game. He's played actually a pretty decent second base, so there is that, but you're not getting anything offensively from him. And yeah, unfortunately, it might be time to just eat it, and move on from him, because it's a tough watch. The problem is, Kevin, is that there are too many black holes in this lineup.
Yeah,
you get down past 5th and 6th, and it's just like, what are we doing here? I love Andy Pages, and I think that guy is just a stud, and he's had a lot of staying power. There've been a couple of mini slumps here and there, but he's looks like he's been able to kind of dig himself out of those holes. And, he just is a stud. I mean, he's been amazing. But beyond him, you get down to the bottom of that order and it's just like who's who of just bad. And like I mentioned before, it's like there's so many open spots on this roster, which is crazy to think, given what we were thinking about going into this season. And nobody wants the job. Nobody is playing well enough to say, yep, you're going to lose playing time to this guy because he's playing so well, because they're all playing so poorly.
Yeah, Paul has his in a hot streak right now, 11 for his last 22. And did he homer off Skenes? Was that who he hit the home run off of?
Yes.
Yeah, that's impressive. So he's finding his batting, and his batting average is up to 263. So I think that comes with being a rookie, the ups and downs. But right now he's in the up, and he's proven to be an everyday player up to this point. But yeah, other than him, the bottom of the lineup is just nothing but automatic outs and not enjoyable to watch. There are pitchers that could do better than some of these guys.
And here's the thing, because I feel like Dodgers fans, we can be very pessimistic when we've had ample opportunities to win multiple titles and we haven't been able to do it. So I get the frustration. I have that frustration. I have that kind of doom and gloom attitude right now, given how the last 2 consecutive postseasons ended. So I get all of that. And I know that a lot of people maybe from the outside looking in are thinking, what are these Dodgers fans complaining about? They're running away with the NL West. They're 7 games up in the division. They have all these high-priced talent. They have Shohei Ohtani. They have Tyler Glasnow and Yamamoto and all of that stuff. I don't understand why they're complaining. Well, the thing is that we're complaining because we know what is at the end of the line. We know what the expectations are. And hopefully the front office, like they did in the offseason, they're preparing for to make necessary changes to make this roster better. So I am very, very hopeful that changes are on the way. And I'm not quite sure if my connection is lost or Kevin's connection is lost, but there's an error message on the screen that says, oops, connection lost. Now it went away. Are you back, Kevin? Was it my issue?
I don't think it was either of us. I heard you the entire time. And if you hear me, then we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah. All good. So yeah, the chat says you're fine. So,
all right. Thank you. All right.
Showtime LA. Yeah. I wanted to bring him up as well. Alex Freeland, another shortstop tearing it up at the AA level, hitting 300, 950 OPS. He might be the answer as our long-term solution at shortstop and could be the guy in 2025. But in the meantime, they do need a stopgap. And I honestly think this trade deadline it's almost looking like it's Bo Bichette or bust, because I don't really know what other shortstop could be available unless they want to try to pull off a trade for Luis Rengifo. But I feel like Artie Moreno has a grudge against the Dodgers and Ohtani, so wouldn't trade him to us and vetoed it years ago. I just don't see the White Sox trading Luis Robert to us unless we give up literally our entire farm. And he's a great hitter. He'd be the solution in the outfield. But I honestly feel like it'd be another Juan Soto all over again, and we'd have to give up tons of key prospects. And that just doesn't feel like an Andrew Friedman type of thing for me. Bo Bichette's not having a good year, and the cost should be a lot less. And we desperately need a shortstop because we don't have anyone.
I mean, if you look at I'm just checking the standings right now, and I'm looking at the Toronto Blue Jays. They're in last place in the East. They're not going anywhere. I mean, you've got the Yankees and the Orioles who are just kind of tearing it up right now. So they're not going to make a while. I mean, it's kind of amazing because I think I may have picked them to make the playoffs. So that's kind of shocking to me that they've been as bad as or mediocre as they've been. Unfortunately, though, Bo Bichette has been pretty damn bad. Maybe he's one of the reasons why they're not winning. I don't know. I haven't been watching Toronto Blue Jays games, but over his last 7 games, he's hitting a $111 with no home runs and no RBIs. On the season, he's hitting 235 with 4 home runs and 25 RBIs. Not great. But what that could mean is that you may be able to get him potentially at a cheaper price in the trade market. You may not have to give up as much to get him because he's playing so poorly. And maybe a change of scenery to a team that is contending for a title might change the way he plays. We know the talent is there. He's just not having a good season so far. So it's not, I don't think it's a reflection on the player as a whole, just about what he's going through right now. And when you're playing for a bad team and you're not winning games and you're under 500, that can do something to you, psyche wise. So maybe that's the case. There's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, woulda, coulda, shouldas with that. But, I think it's a better option than what we have right now, which is making one of our superstars play out of position and potentially hurting his offensive numbers because of it.
The Mets are going to probably sell everyone off that's closer to free agency with their contracts expiring. I think Starling Marte has 1 more year left. Would you be interested in him?
Starling Marte?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's sort of like a Tommy Pham type of guy. It's like a good role player, not a guy that you're going to rely on heavily to provide you with, is not going to carry the offense, so to speak. But yeah, a good player with pop, a good outfielder. That's great. I think that the Dodgers could use a couple of good role players or good role bench players, and they hit in the postseason. So that's a huge factor, I think, in considering these players. The Dodgers have enough superstar talent. I don't think they need to add more superstar talent to this team because they're already so top heavy. We need guys at the bottom of this order to freaking produce. So if Starling Marte is a guy that they can go out and get, and with the Mets being as bad as they are, I would welcome it. I don't know about, but is he? I don't know that much about him in terms of his, does he strike out a lot? Or is he more of a contact hitter? Could we be adding another strikeout hitter to the team is my question.
I think he strikes out a decent amount, but he also has some pop. But yeah, like the chat's mentioning, Harrison Bader is the other alternative from the Mets. They could go out and maybe get him. So I think those two, Marte and Bader, along with Pham, although I think the Dodgers just don't like Pham. And then Bichette feel like the most realistic trade pieces for the Dodgers right now.
Honestly, those would help. Those would help. Really, they would. Because that's what we're missing right now. Our role players and our bench is so bad right now that we need even a marginal upgrade. And those players seem like marginal upgrades. At the very least, I should say.
Let's take a quick pause right here, and then we're going to talk about this series coming up. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you live on the East Coast, you want to see the Dodgers play the Yankees, go ahead and download the TickPick app for the best deals right now out there on the ticket pricing market. No service fees at checkout. Dodgers, Yankees coming up. Check it out on TickPick. Best deals out there. If you're excited for the NBA Finals, you want to watch the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics play, and you're going to fly out there, go ahead and buy your tickets on TickPick as well. Jake, I'll ask you, who do you think is going to win the NBA Finals?
I mean, the Celtics definitely have the better team, but I kind of would like to see Luka win a title. I think that would be cool. I really like him. Kyrie's a controversial player as a person, but he's an amazing basketball player. I mean, look, Kevin, we're Lakers fans. We can't really root for the Celtics at any point. Just I within my soul and my heart, I can't do it. So I think that the Celtics will come away with this win, maybe in 6, but it would be sick if they were upended by Dallas.
Yeah, I'm not going to use my heart here. Celtics in 6. it's their year. So yeah, download the Tick Pick app. Go to a Dodger game. Yamamoto bobblehead coming up in a week. We may or may not do a giveaway depending if I can get to the stadium in time. But to guarantee your Yamamoto bobblehead, go ahead and download the Tick Pick app. So, anyways, people are going to be crazy about this series. It's a potential World Series matchup. And if I remember correctly, Jake, you didn't believe in this Yankees team. I don't even know if you had them making the playoffs. I think you were higher on Toronto over the Yankees. But
if there's one thing that Incline listeners have known about me and have grown to maybe love about me or hate about me, is that my predictions suck. I'm so bad at predicting shit. I'm much better at watching the games and analyzing them and thinking about what it means for the team at the moment. But in terms of predicting stuff, I'm awful at it. This was a terrible pick. Barring a Yankees just absolute collapse, injuries, whatever, and they end up, choking and dying. This was probably up there with one of the worst takes I've had preseason, and I have a fair share of them.
Yeah, I can't guarantee what will happen to the Yankees in the postseason, but they're definitely going to make it.
But I will say this, Kevin. I will say this. I've always, as a Dodgers fan, because I grew up, I was born in 91. I've never seen a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. So That's something that I've always wanted to see. And I think obviously Major League Baseball would love it too, but that's a classic matchup. That's what I want. And I feel like if the Dodgers do make it to the World Series, it means that they figured out what to do offensively. They figured out how to score runs. And so I would feel pretty confident in that team if they do make the World Series. And of course the Yankees have to make it themselves. I feel like we're in a pretty good position to face them and beat them. But with the way that the Dodgers are playing right now, and comparatively with the way the Yankees are playing right now, I'm really not looking forward to this series coming up.
On paper, if they were to make the World Series, it'd be the most stacked World Series of the 21st century. I don't even think that's debatable. What they got going out there in New York right now, Aaron Judge, 21 home runs, OPS over 1,000. Juan Soto, who's setting himself up for a massive payday in the offseason. He's got 17 home runs, OPS over 1,000, hitting like 350, I think. And then Giancarlo Stanton's actually healthy for once, and he's got 15 home runs. Former Dodger Alex Verdugo, he's got 8 home runs. And then they've got other sluggers like Anthony Rizzo, and then Gleyber Torres is in that lineup. And the pitching has been exceptional as well, even though Garrett Cole has been out with the elbow injury. What's his name? Lucas Gill, I think. He's been insane. ERA.
Yeah, I was looking at his stats.
I don't know. Yeah, Gill. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I believe he has an ERA in the high 1s or low 2s.
He is 8-1 with a 1.82 ERA.
Yeah. And I think the Dodgers are set up to face him.
Also, I've never seen him pitch, nor have I ever heard of him before. But I'm looking at his Major League Baseball page, and he has a neck tattoo. It's literally right across the front of his neck, across his Adam's apple, that says "God bless me." So that's a fun fact about Luis Gil as well.
There it is. So Luis Gil. Okay, and then who else is there? We might see former Dodger Victor Gonzalez if he's healthy. Former Dodger Caleb Ferguson. He'd be in that bullpen as well. We may see. I don't think they've announced their starters for the Dodgers though. They've already said it's going to be Yamamoto, Stone, and Glass. Now we'll see Heel. We'll see probably Rodon, and then maybe who's the other? Why am I blanking? It's not going to be Stroman. I'm blanking on who's in the Yankees rotation right
here.
now.
I have the probables up here. It's Friday is Cody Poteet, another guy I've never heard of, versus Yamamoto. Then Saturday it's Nestor Cortez.
Cortez.
Gavin Stone, and then Luis Gil versus Tyler Glasnow.
Okay, so yeah, that last matchup is going to be a strikeout fest. But okay, yeah, Cortez, believe he was an all-star once for the Yankees. Seems to have bounced back. I think he had a bad year a year ago. Lefty could give the Dodgers trouble. And the other guy I've never heard of.
Yeah. Usually with guys that we've never heard of, prepare for them to just carve us up. We love to not hit against guys that not a lot of people have heard of. But the Yankees are on fire. They've won 7 in a row. They've won 8 of their last 10. And they're coming into this series very, very hot. And the Dodgers are coming into the series very, very mediocre. So, but, you know, the Dodgers have been playing bad teams like the Reds and the Pirates and the Rockies, and they can't really get up for those series, even though they did win the Rockies series. So maybe with this being kind of like a big stage game, maybe these guys will get up for it. That would be fun. What I don't want to see is like what we're seeing right now against the Pirates. Let's just like lifeless at bats, not moving runners over, not scoring runs, just kind of going through the motions. I want to see these guys fight. I want to see this series matter to these players. That's what I want to watch. I want to see 2 of the best teams in Major League Baseball going at it and it being a really competitive series. Whether or not the Dodgers win 2, lose 3, or win 3, I want to see these games being tight ball games, and I want to see the Dodgers in every single one of these games because they have the talent to do so. We know that. It's just a matter of performing when they need to. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I hope that we get that kind of series.
I think it'll be fun. My predictions are we're going to lose this series. We're going to win game 1. We'll beat Poteet. I'm looking at who this guy is right now. He's 29. He pitched 2 seasons for the Marlins. Therefore, he's automatically bad. So we're going to beat him. And Yamamoto's throwing the ball for us. And the Yankees wanted him desperately bad. So we'll win that game. Game 2 is going to be a slugfest. We're going to come up short, probably like 6-4, 7-5, some bullshit like that. Someone in the bullpen is going to collapse for the Dodgers. And then the final game, Tyler Glasnow will get 0 run support as usual because he's had 5 starts in a row where the Dodgers have scored a total of 0 runs for him. That was a mind-boggling stat that he's thrown 5 consecutive starts for the Dodgers and has a total of 0 runs support given to him.
That's got to be frustrating.
And this guy left Tampa Bay thinking he'd get more offense. So that sucks for Glasnow. So they're going to pitch their asses off, but they're going to lose like 2-0 or some stupid thing like that.
Jay says Glasnow getting the Kershaw treatment, LOL. It reminds me of growing up watching Kevin Brown. It felt and Kevin Brown at the time was really the only good like ace pitcher on the Dodgers. I mean, they had Nomo and they had Channel Park. It's Ismael Valdez. I mean, they had okay guys, but Kevin Brown was the ace, and they never scored for him. It was crazy. I don't know what that is with like ace pitchers and not scoring for them. I mean, is it just a mentality where they don't feel like the offense doesn't feel like they've got to score because the pitcher is so good? I just have a hard time believing that they have that collective mentality, or if it's just a coincidence that this occurs.
Couldn't answer that. Jake, are there any final things you want to cover? Otherwise, chat in the meantime, ask your final questions because we're closing the show out in a few minutes.
Is there anything else I want to talk about? I saw Dave Roberts at dinner the other night. That was kind of fun. I was having dinner in the Arts District, which is kind of I wouldn't say newly renovated, but it's within the last decade or so, it's been newly renovated, and it's pretty popular. It's a pretty popular place nowadays. And we went to this restaurant, which had the worst name I've ever heard of. And the reason I say that is because I can't remember it, but the food was excellent. And Dave was sitting at a table kind of diagonal from us, and he was celebrating his birthday. It was the day that it was the day after the day game against the Rockies, and they were preparing to fly to Pittsburgh the next day. And so he was celebrating his birthday there with a couple people, I believe one of them being his wife. And he seemed pretty jovial. It was kind of surreal, though, sitting like looking at Dave, like he was in my eye line the entire night, and just thinking about, man, I've had so many feelings about this man over the years. He has no idea who I am, but I've had so many like conflicting thoughts of like, is he a good manager? He's a good, he's good with the players, and he's been there for a while. He's got a great regular season record. He's a World Series champion manager. But man, there's been the other side of the coin where I've just been like so upset with him. What are you doing? What's going through your mind in the postseason with these pitching changes? He should be fired. You need to get rid of him, and maybe we should keep him. I mean, just crazy. Just being feet from a guy that you've just had so many mixed emotions about. It was kind of wild.
Yeah, if I saw him in public, I wouldn't go up to him. I just don't care about him enough. What'd you order? What did he order?
I don't know what he ordered. Aaron says Dave is allowed to be jovial on his birthday with his family. I wasn't saying that he shouldn't be. I mean, obviously he should be jovial whenever he wants. I mean, he is generally speaking, a jovial guy, really nice person, and a good person. So I'm not knocking him for that. It was kind of dawning on me sitting there like, it's amazing how many thoughts and feelings I've had about this person.
All right. Rapid fire questions now. Justin Yamas, who gets Garrett Crochet? San Diego Padres. Showtime LA. Jake, is Josue De Paula untouchable?
Yes.
I agree. I would not trade him for pretty much anyone right now.
Yeah, no, and it's like we don't even see what we fully have with him. Isn't he in AA right now, or is he in AAA?
He's not in AAA. Yeah, you're right. He is in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Jay, who's the odd man out in the rotation once Bobby Miller comes back?
Right now it's Paxton. He's not really gone in deep into games the last two starts. He pitched horrendously yesterday.
Yeah.
And I mean, barring, injuries galore, I don't see him making a postseason start for us. So unfortunately, I believe he is the odd man out, because I think that even with Buehler kind of struggling to find his footing, they're going to keep riding with him until the end of time, if he's healthy. So I think it's Paxton.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Paxton. I kind of forgot because his start was so forgettable a day ago, but he needs to go on the IL. He was like an ERA in the 2.5s just a few starts ago. Now he has a 4.19 ERA. FIP is over 5. Gave up 6 runs in 1 2/3 innings against the Pirates. He's out of gas. His velocity is way down. I think he needs to go on the injured list because that's what James Paxton is known for, getting hurt. As a number 5, he was perfectly fine for a couple months. He just needs a reset or something. But yeah, once Bobby Miller comes back, he's got to be the odd man out unless they do the 6-man. And Clayton Kershaw's already thrown the ball. He's going to throw the ball off the mound for 2 simulated innings Friday. So I'm surprised to see how quickly he's recovering. So we might have Clayton Kershaw on the Dodgers rotation in early August, the way things are going, or maybe in July.
Yeah, I'm excited for Kershaw to be back. I hope that Kershaw makes his first start of the season at Dodger Stadium, because that's going to be electric.
Apparently DePaul is in Rancho Single A. So thank you, Showtime, for correcting us. Justin, hey, Kevin, what's the best Dutch dish you have had? Can I say really nothing? Because Dutch food isn't that good.
What is the best? Well, how about this? What is the you've been kind of gallivanting around? What is the best meal that you've had so far?
So definitely Paris. I'd never been there before.
Really?
I had duck and French onion soup and French bread and some wine. That was the best meal I had. Dutch food is basically meat and potatoes. It's really not that exciting. Aaron Vaughn, right now, what trade package would you offer and for who? So just throw out a trade, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is like, I would love Luis Robert, but the thing that I can't get on board with is just he gets injured so easily. So it's like, do you want to bet the house and give up a ton of prospects for a guy that you don't really know if you can rely on fully? Or would you rather go kind of what we were talking about, the lower tier Starling Martes, Tommy Phams, Harrison Baders of the world? But I think that in terms of trade packaging, I think Lux has to be on there. If they can throw in Chris Taylor as like a throw in at the end, maybe, but you might have to actually give up on Miguel Vargas or James Outman or one of these guys that does not have a spot on a solid spot on the roster in order to get someone like Luis Robert and maybe a top pitching prospect. I mean, they're going to want pitching. The White Sox are going to definitely want pitching. So who would you out of our top pitchers, like who would you be willing to part with?
Yep. So pulling up my post from May 11th, time stamped. Still riding this. Dodgers acquire shortstop Bo Bichette and right-handed pitcher Nate Pearson from the Toronto Blue Jays. And we give up Diego Cartaya, Landon Knack, Ryan Ward, and Peyton Martin. Going that. Dying on that hill. Get the shortstop. We get the pitcher that was once a highly touted prospect, has not worked out in Toronto, kind of similar to Glass now. Put him in the Prior lab, have him be a weapon out of the pen, and then eventually he can be a starter again. That's what I'm doing. Bo Bichette, baby.
It's not bad.
All right, that's going to conclude this episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. I'm going to throw it back over to Jake real quick for final thoughts, but this is the last episode. This is the last opportunity to get an entry for the Walker Buehler bobblehead. So when this stream closes out, all you need to do is comment on this video and the previous ones. Just mention Buehler's name. He's going for the Dodgers tonight against the Pirates. Hopefully he gets the win and has a good start for once, because he's been kind of mediocre for the most part. Comment Walker Buehler. We're going to do the giveaway next week. You'll find out who wins that free Walker Buehler bobblehead. So, Jake, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are these. I am going to try. My feeling towards the Dodgers this year, obviously at the start, was like very excited. We had Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, all these new shiny toys. And for the most part, they've been good. And the Dodgers have been good. They have a very comfortable lead in the division. But that also worries me too, is that will they be sharp enough and healthy enough by the time October rolls around to kick some ass? The Dodgers need to impose their will on teams. They don't need to just play to their competition. They need to impose their will. That's what other teams do against the Dodgers, whether they run or bunt or steal on them. They're always imposing their will against us, and we're having to react to that. But I'm hoping that the Dodgers can say, no, we're the effing Dodgers. We're going to beat you, and have that confidence and have that grit when we get to the postseason. That is one thing that I am so focused on. And it's why that I don't really get too high or too low after wins or losses in the regular season. It's about how we win and how we lose. That is the most concerning part to me, because even in that final game against the Rockies where they won, they were something like 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. That worries me. That's not going to play. They got to figure out how to score runs. They got to figure out how to move runners over and scratch runs across and figure out ways to score without hitting the ball out of the park. That's got to be their only focus offensively. I think the pitching is fine. The bullpen has been fine. They're getting pieces back. I mean, Treinen has been amazing. Daniel Hudson has figured it out. Evan Phillips is back. Vesey has been great. So That's all that really matters right now to me is the offense.
Good stuff. My final thoughts are I never want to see us get completely dicked down by a Dakota Hudson ever again. What did he throw 7 innings against us? And he hadn't even come close to that all season. So that's unacceptable. Can't lose to bad pitchers. They're going to win this game to avoid the sweep against the Pirates because, my goodness, we cannot get swept for the second consecutive time in an NL Central ballpark. They're going to win this game. I just saw the lineup. Vargas is in, Kike is in, and Austin Barnes is in. One of them will have an RBI. Calling my shot right now. And Rojas is in.
That's why we don't generally do well on getaway days, because we usually go with this lineup. This kind of, it's time for the backups to have and they have to play. But do they all have to play together? No, but that's kind of what happens.
Hi, Rebecca Michelle David. Goodbye, Rebecca Michelle David. We are out. Make sure to subscribe and like this episode. And if you're on the audio feed, subscribe as